Welcome to Storybound for our second foray into the world of Metroid. Last video, we covered the events of the mainline Metroid games leading up to Dread, which is now released, and I'm happy to say it's frickin' awesome. And that seems to be the general consensus around the community as a whole. The Metroid Prime timeline currently consists of 5 games: Metroid Prime Hunters, Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, Metroid Prime Federation Force. Today, we're going to cover the arc Samus takes between the events covering Metroid Prime 1, Metroid Prime Hunters, and Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. So, with Metroid Dread in everyone's hand, and a rekindled hope that the series has been resurrected from Nintendo's vaults, let's dive into it. Metroid Prime. 3 years preceding the events of Metroid Zero Mission, Samus has just left the planet Zebes. After destroying the space pirates' base, Samus continues to earn renown across the galaxy, taking on jobs and missions, when suddenly she intercepts a distressed call from the space station orbiting Talon 4. The distress calls out to hail from the Orpheon, a ship manned by the space pirate science team, whose work focuses on the genetic enhancement of creatures across the galaxy. Their current focus, however, seems to surround Talon 4 specifically. While searching the vessel, it appears the majority of the facility workers are dead, and evacuation of the vessels have most part completed. After nearing the center mass and nearing the reactor core, Samus encounters a parasite queen and engages it in battle. The queen itself plunges itself into the depths of the reactor, causing the research station engines to fail. As Samus fights to escape, she is damaged by the ensuing chaos and explosions, disabling her suit's full capabilities. As she reaches her gunship, she uncovers what the Orpheon team was working on: Ridley. Or more specifically, the now genetically enhanced Meta Ridley, reincarnated and augmented with cybernetics. After getting to her gunship, Samus rushes to the Talon overworld in hopes to stop Ridley and the other space pirates. We learn more about the Chozo on the planet and how they had been affected by a great poison, a calamity caused by a meteor long ago. Upon discovering a creature called the Flagra infecting the planet's ecosystem, Samus destroys it and purifies the spring. Digging into the Magmor caverns, she begins to encounter much more pirate activity, including their efforts to pull energy from the vast heat sources of the cavern, powering the labs. Scanning her surroundings, Samus is able to determine that the pirates are conducting experiments with Phazon brought within the calamity of the meteor. While continuing to explore, Samus once again encounters the Metroids, and that they have survived or have been migrated from Turian by the pirates before its destruction. She then encounters experimental creatures, Thardus, a colossal rock monster imbued with the Phazon, causing it to become sentient. Samus is forced to dispatch the creature. This isn't the only Phazon corrupted being. She would encounter spirits affected by Phazon energies as well, as she traverses the wreckage into the Phazon mines, where she would encounter Phazon-enhanced elite pirates, as well as a Phazon-absorbing Omega Pirate protecting the Phazon core of the planet. Going deeper into the mines, Samus continues to encounter the Metroids, and learning of the effects of the Phazon on them, preventing them from evolving past their most basic forms. After fighting and defeating the Omega Pirate within the depths of the mines, Samus's suit is imbued with Phazon and becomes the Phazon suit, allowing her to traverse heavily impacted Phazon zones, as well as imbuing her weapons with Phazon energy. After finding the final of the Chozo artifacts, Samus arrives back at the Chozo Temple, completing an ancient device, hoping it can provide her access to the crater. However, before she can make her way to the crater, Meta Ridley appears, and Samus is forced to battle him once again. Their battle is epic, and causes quite a bit of destruction of the temple, and its statues, which suddenly surges to life to blast Ridley into the impact crater. The spirit of the Chozo opened the shielding of the crater for Samus, acknowledging her heritage and her ability to end the corruption. Samus encounters the Metroid Prime within the impact crater, as well as Phazon mutated Metroids, and take advantage of her new abilities, pummels the Metroid Prime back down the cliff and chases it towards the inner planet. This is the final battle with the Metroid Prime, revealing its final form and its most corrupted version yet. However, with Samus's wide range of abilities and her new Phazon powers, she is able to destroy the Metroid Prime, overloading it with Phazon, causing the core to collapse. Samus retreats to her gunship and is able to see the Phazon be dispersed from the planet's surface. The game cuts to something rising from the surface, a hand oddly familiar with Samus in her Phazon suit, with an eye protruding from it. End of Metroid Prime 1. Metroid Prime Hunters. Hunters takes place directly between the events of Metroid Prime 1 and 2. We find out that just outside of the Galactic Federation's control is a system called Tetra. We are introduced to a species called Olympics, who, now extinct, once ruled the cluster. Much like many species in the world, they one day mysteriously disappeared, leaving trace relics and architecture behind to be discovered. The Hunters have received transmissions from the sector, telepathically advising the secret to ultimate power resides in the Olympic cluster. Many hunters would go on to attempt to claim the prize hidden within the cluster for their own personal use, but fail any attempts to do so. Once again, the Galactic Federation sends Samus the task to discover the truths about the mysterious message, to protect against a potential threat, and to keep the Olympics' ultimate power from falling into the wrong hands. Upon Samus's arrival, she discovers the Celestial Archives, containing the historical files of the Olympic species, through much of which is no longer intact. This is where Samus is attacked by Candon, where they fight over one of the Olympic artifacts, and after defeating Candon and collecting 3 additional artifacts, Samus encounters a bioweapon, the Cryptophid. She defeats it and uncovers an item called the Octolith. After discovering the Octolith, Samus makes her way back through the station, and due to an escape timer, she rushes back to her gunship. And she flees. She scans the nearby systems and identifies 3 additional worlds of interest: Alanos, the homeworld of the Olympics, Vesper Defense Outpost, and Arc Terra. While exploring, Samus finds additional octoliths and aspects, which allow her to access additional areas. While uncovering more data about the Olympics through data shades, as well as her scan visor, Samus continues to chase the hunters through the system to find out what is causing their destruction. She sees the end of the battle ensuing and the hunter forces eventually losing, having their weapons absorbed by the created. Samus fights through multiple forms and mutations of Guria, eventually using the Omega Cannon to defeat its final form. Samus and the other hunters escape the planet, and Samus is greeted with a vision of 3 Olympics who seem pleased with her actions. Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. Samus Aran is tasked by the Federation to investigate a mission team called Squad Bravo, who stopped communicating 8 days before the start of the game. Based on the last coordinates, she heads for the planet Aether, and during entry, her ship is struck by lightning, forcing Samus to crash land on the surface. Samus explores their abandoned base, uncovering a portal to the dark Aether, where she encounters Aether beings looking very much like herself. Samus falls through the portal, and on the other side, it is siphoning Phazon. Upon seeing Samus, it shatters it into an apparent attempt to poison Samus. After the barrier fades, various beings attack Samus. As she escapes, she loses her upgrades and abilities to the creatures. Eventually stumbling onto the trooper base and watching commanding officer entry logs, it is learned that the team was eradicated by beings known as the Dark Splinters. She continues to explore and fight off Dark Splinters and arrives at the Great Temple, where she continues to battle with a being called the Alpha Splinter, which is able to transform into a Dark Alpha Splinter. With Samus' unparalleled abilities to adapt, she is victorious and uncovers a mysterious alien upgrade. She makes her way up to the temple elevator, discovering a bright, glowing light. An excerpt from the wiki tells us that something called the Luminoth, and presents us with the following. The Luminoth, Umos, explains how the Luminoth fought the Ing over their planetary energy. The Ing have stolen nearly all of it, and so Umos implores her to help them. The energy transfer module she had taken back from the Ing would help her steal the energy and protect her from Ing possession. With her upgrades stolen by the Ing, Umos's warnings, that the Ing could target humanity should Aether fall, and moved by the Luminoth's plight, Samus agrees. Umos then sends her to the Aegon Wastes, plains that were burned by the Leviathan impact, which brought the Ing and created the Dark Aether. Samus proceeds to collect Dark Temple keys, both allowing access to the Dark Temples and allowing her to regain upgrades to her suit and new abilities. Eventually, she arrives at the Aegon pirate base and is forced to engage Dark Samus. After acquiring all the keys, Samus then returns to the temple where the Umos then sends her to Torvis, a forest region, to regain more energy. She then makes quick work of the Chica, a massive dragonfly-like creature. Umos then sends Samus to the Sanctuary Fortress, where Samus is able to restore her missing powers and is forced to engage Dark Samus again. She then proceeds to the Ing Hive Temple, where she faces Quadraxis, a colossal security drone created by the Luminoth. This provides Samus with the Annihilator Beam, and also releases the third energy controller. Upon another return to the Umos, now with freed powers and accessing the Aether, Samus is gifted the Light Suit, and her task to enter the Sky Temple to find the final energy controller. Sealed behind 9 keys, Samus enters the Great Temple Mirror and defeats the Emperor Ing, the eldest and strongest of the Ing, and releases the final controller, causing the Dark Aether to crumble. Once again, Samus has a limited clock to escape, and within the next 8 minutes, she is forced to engage Dark Samus again, its suit damaged by the falling aether, revealing its Metroid-like appearance and 3 yellow eyes. Samus makes the connection that the Dark Samus is actually the reincarnation of the Metroid Prime, and uses her knowledge of the previous encounters to overload it with Phazon, collecting the projectiles launched by Dark Samus, and eventually sending those energies back to the creature to take its shield and defeat it. In a last-ditch effort, Dark Samus attempts to once again siphon Samus's energy, but fails, its body deteriorating to Phazon energy. With the temple collapsing and surrounded by Ing, Samus escapes through a portal back to the Aether and returns to the energy controller. In a literal hailing of victory from the Luminoth, Samus returns to her ship and leaves Aether to deep space, leading to the events of Metroid Prime 3. This is the end of the first part of our series covering the events of Metroid Prime, starting with Metroid Prime 1, Metroid Prime Hunters, and Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. In our next episode, we'll cover the events of Metroid Prime 3, as well as Metroid Prime Federation Force. The hype is real, Metroid Prime hopefully getting some light later this year. I would personally hope for a 2023 release. Thanks everyone for watching, hope you're as excited for new Metroid content as I am, and as always, have a good one.